Hey, how's it going? Coach Kyle here, and I want to touch base on a little thing I thought of earlier today on my run. And one thing I warn people about with shoe selection is never purchase a pair of shoes where you can feel either with your hand or with your foot when the shoe is on. Never buy a pair of shoes where you can feel the heel counter, that space back here, pushing in on the back of your foot here. That can cause some major problems. So that's tip one. Now tip two in relation to that is how you put your shoes on. The reminder is that and I'm sure most of you don't do this, but never put your shoes on where you're pushing in on the heel counter like that. Always be mindful to pull back and slip it in like that. What you don't want to do is give your heel counter any more reason to go forward into your heel. So two little pieces of advice here. The first one is that if you're having heel problems, check to see if the rear of your shoe back here is pushing in at all. This one is completely flat and pretty vertical back there. So like this, for example, there's no pressure pushing in right there on the back of my foot. I have a couple other pairs that they're not quite like that. Second is you don't want to give the heel counter any reason to push in. And part of that could be if you're slamming your foot into your shoe to put it on. And I doubt most of you are doing this, but it's something to be aware of. And I guess third point, if you are having, rear, lower leg, calf, Achilles problems, one thing you could potentially do is buy a new pair of shoes that is really super soft back here, or take a knife, a pair of scissors to your current pair, and if there's any stiffness, if there's any padding lumps back here, cut them out, snip them out, give your Achilles back here some extra space to breathe, and that could relieve some pressure pushing in on the back of your foot. And that could go a long way towards helping any lower leg, Achilles, lower calf problems you might have. One thing that is important to keep in mind, again, is that good shoes don't really make you a faster runner, but that's just where you're at. But bad shoes that aren't meant for you, aren't the right shape, the right cushioning, the right drop, shoes that aren't comfortable will slow you down. They will injure you. So, oftentimes people are really quick to blame footwear for injuries. And I think it's often premature to just blame your shoes, but that's not to say that shoes aren't sometimes the cause if it's not the right pair of shoes for you. Or if the shoes aren't the problem, switching shoes can still help because they change. A different pair of shoes will change how your foot lands, the loading, it'll change your movements, which could help with an injury. So it's not always correct to blame the shoes right off the bat, but they could be impacting your running in a negative way. And even if they're not, a different pair of shoes can change how you move and could potentially help with some sort of little niggle or injury. So there's a lot to keep in mind here. And, part of my job as a coach is to keep these things in mind. And when a client is struggling with something, part of my job is to know 10 potential causes or remedies and go through them with my clients and figure it out. So just a quick reminder, I just finished up a workout and I thought I would do a quick video because I thought of this during the run today, is that a couple things is with the heel counter causing problems, or because I noticed that the heel is wearing out back here, and I think this outer material on the shoe is just really soft. and it's gonna happen. It's over here as well, and so it's just, I think it's just the material back here is super soft, and that's another thing to keep in mind. Is that do you want me to make you a checklist here? But sometimes I see people, they say, oh, my shoe is wearing out right here or right here. You want to see a shoe that's wearing out? Check out that bad boy. Look at that. Oh my gosh, that is so worn out. I don't know, 1,000, 1,500 miles in these. Probably a few hundred more to go at least. I still have no holes in the upper. The last pair of these that I had, it was almost a complete hole. Where are we at? Through here and along here, and both holes almost met up on this support line right here. So what was I talking about? Oh yeah, so sometimes on Twitter, Reddit, I see people, they go, oh, my shoe's wearing out on the outside of my midfoot or the outside of my heel. How do I fix that? Is this causing an injury? Is it going to cause an injury? And you got to land somewhere, people. Clearly this is from toe off, and most of the time when I land right here and or right back here, and we can tell where the shoe wear. I'm rambling now. The shoe wear kind of tells us where the friction is. It doesn't really tell us how the foot is actually moving inside the shoe, how your bones and muscles are moving inside your foot. But it does show us a little bit. It shows us where there's the most movement of the shoe against the ground. But the shoe has to wear out somewhere. And back here, you can see back here, and I wear these mostly for walking. I rarely run in these. They're the Nike Wild Horse 5. They have the 6 now. It's completely redone, so I can't really recommend the 6, but these are the most comfortable pair of shoes I've ever worn. Maybe the Kinvara is right up there too. But with these, a running pair, you got to wear out somewhere, and very common is back here or along here. Now, if you're a heavy midfoot striker, you probably will see some more wear back here. I'm more of a midfoot, flat foot, whole foot striker, so it's most of the landing is right in here. The slower I run, I'll land more back here. So it's a variety of footwear, of foot strikes. I'm not just a rear foot striker. Everybody strikes differently based on fatigue, terrain, speed, run duration, etc. It just changes, and that's okay. And obviously, there's a lot of toe off up here, and something else that can affect how a shoe looks under, on the sole is the material. And you can see, not so much anymore, but this yellow, the lighter yellow material is harder. It's a harder rubber. It's more dense. And this soft material, the light green, is it's a soft. It's a midsole. This is the harder outsole. So this is going to wear slower than this. And actually, this green right in here dips down a little bit, and this was more pronounced even when there was more of this yellow, but it was almost a divot right here under my big toe because this wore out sooner than this did. And like with this, I would assume that the black is a little, no, I think it's just painted. I can't tell if it's two separate pieces, but this is a good example, is that this yellow material wore out slower. So depending on how the sole of your foot, of your shoe is designed, here, this is a good example. Look at that. So this is the harder outsole, and this is the midsole. So this is wearing out, and I might have roughly equal placement, with my foot strike in this area. But this harder outsole material is wearing down slower. So that's why it dips in so much right here, because this is wearing out slower than this. So that's another thing to be aware of, is that the shoe material makes a big difference on how your shoe wears. And something else that you've maybe heard is to run quiet. But again, this is a real high density EVA. So it's actually louder than something super soft like the bottom of my Kinvara. More of the bottom of my Kinvara is something more like this. It's softer, so it's going to be quieter. So like I can't. And I had these are old Skora shoes, and they made some other footwear that was a lot of this high density rubber. And the thing with the high density rubber is it might be a little less flexible. So what you'll often see is some of the harder stuff on around the sides, up front, and the heel, but then the middle of the shoe is softer, so it's more flexible. Or like this, it's broken up. It's not just slabs of the harder EVA, so it's a little more flexible than it would be otherwise. But I don't know where I was going. Oh yeah, quiet. So one thing to keep in mind is that some shoes are louder than others, and that's okay as well. But being a little aware of maybe how loud you're running could be something to kind of just be aware of and keep in mind is that. But something else, again, I'm just kind of going on tangents here, and this is kind of fun, but something else to keep in mind is that the faster, the harder you run, typically the harder you hit the ground. So that's part of how we generate force. And I even recall a study that the study actually found that the faster runners hit the ground harder than slower runners. So you got it again. Like shoes got to wear out, and you got to hit the ground when you run. That's just how it works. And it's not necessarily bad to have a high loading rate, high ground contact force when you run, because that's part of how we generate force, power. We've got to touch the ground when we run, unfortunately. Some of us do it more than others, but that's something else to be aware of, is that it's not bad to hit the ground hard when you run. That's and the brain, it's not so much that you're to run faster, you don't necessarily hit the ground harder on purpose, but it happens naturally, like increased cadence, increased stride length, increased ground contact forces. You don't really do these on purpose consciously, but they happen as a result of, okay, I'm going to run faster right now. And it's a result of the thought, and then your brain kind of just does all that. All the different form cues and characteristics that change from a jog to a moderate effort. Things change, and your body typically does it naturally on its own, but it's nice to be aware of these things, and now you are. So, like I said earlier, part of my job is to figure this stuff out for clients and explain it to them one-on-one when it pops up, so they know what is going on and they have things to be aware of. And if it doesn't matter to them, then I don't talk to them. It's kind of part of my job is filtering out information, but also telling clients the appropriate information at the appropriate time and figuring stuff out. So if you have any questions about coaching or just running in general, you're always welcome to send them my way. Just send me a DM. You're watching this, so you know how to contact me. Don't wish you would have contacted me a month from now. Do it now. Figure it out, whether it's just a question or you want to jump on coaching. I might only have 2 slots left. I'm going to hit a limit in the next 2 to 3 weeks, I think, and I hope. And then I'm not going to take any more clients. So if you're thinking about it, don't wait, because it might be too late. But I got to go shower. So I hope to talk to you later. Hope this was helpful. Bye.